machine. I'm really, really impressed. It's actually the quietest machine. You got your tie downs right here. And the other thing I really like.
Okay, one of the things you'll notice after maybe watching the video, this part of it's in high speed, obviously, that I'm constantly basically rocking back and forth in the cab. And that is the motion, that is what's caused, in my opinion, from the suspension. I feel like I'm constantly always rocking back and forth, and my lower back just flares right up with that. Now, I did have a lower back injury from football, wakeboarding, and snowboarding, and just being an 18-year-old kid back in the day, and that's partially to what's, you know, aggravating it, or what's leading to the aggravation in this. However, this is the only machine that makes my back hurt, and it's because of that rocking back and forth. And it's interesting too, I remember now sort of a dread that I had when I would have to go to work in Florida and run that skid steer all day, because it was constantly like just that rocking back and forth, and it just tears my back up. So caused in part mostly due to the suspension, and my back is much better. I did a lot of work on it through my early 20s, and well, pretty much through my whole 20 years or 10 years of being 20. So it's a lot better, and I know what to do and what not to do generally with it. So I've done a lot of work to help my back out. But the point is, it's one of the things I just don't like, a suspensioned machine. And I'm not sure if CAT does offer a no suspension option for this machine, but I think that would make it a lot more appealing, at least to me. So just a note there, when I was editing the video, I noticed that, and that's exactly what really aggravates my back.
The cab in this, just, I mean, you've got cloth over here. I mean, it's definitely not a Cadillac, but it's certainly noticeably more different, or noticeably better and nicer than the CAT or the Takeuchi. One time said, because I was telling him, I just don't know about a CAT because I can't stand the door on it, the way it works. So that really is the biggest thing about this machine that I don't like, is the door. You have to have the boom all the way down to get out of the door. She's a beast of a machine. I'm really, really impressed. It's actually the quietest machine. You got your tie downs right here. And the other thing I really like, get it open, I really like about this is you don't have the radiator in the way. There's your fuel cap, fuel filter, hydraulic filter. I think that's your hydraulic filter, fuel filter. Really easy to get to that stuff, and you can see how quiet it is. It's significantly quieter. This one's got the auxiliary hydraulic cooler on it because they use it to put their Fecon on and run it with the Fecon. But then you'll see here too, the tie downs are all the way down there. That's kind of a pain in the butt. The Kubota really has it nailed down with putting the tie downs right.
It's not horrible to get into,
but it's definitely not nearly as easy just want more room in this thing. I feel like it's cramped. Hours of running this thing, I would want more room in it. And I don't really have a good place to put my phone either, which is kind of annoying. So we're gonna get the timer here going. Reset. Where can I put my damn phone at? There's just no good spot to put the phone. There we go. We're starting. Full throttle. Here we go. I mean, so this has a little bit of clay in it, but neither the Kubota or the Takeuchi was able. I mean, this thing just pushes. I don't care if it's got a small bucket on it or not. Phone ether land. You can hear it like bogged down, and then you can hear it and kind of feel it start to send all the hydraulic pressure to drive motors. Now see, that's where the suspension just came in handy right there, is going over that dirt, hitting the ground where it was flat. It did not jar me. So I think the suspension is sort of a similar thing that you can get used to, like electric over hydraulic. Hydraulic over hydraulic. I think you just need to learn how to work the machine. Woohoo! It's bouncy. But I just am not as good with the suspension. Something that I would need time to get used to. Burls right through that. 733 hours on this machine. Definitely quiet. Definitely wins the quiet category out of the three, out of the Kubota, the Takeuchi. Timer's going. I can't give you an update on it because it's down behind the seat. Off my used high gear there. bucket is probably twice as small, twice the capacity. The 4 minutes 30 seconds with the smaller bucket right now. Pretty much got her licked. 5 minutes 30 seconds. Arguably done. I think we should call it 5 minutes and 30 seconds. Doing some little cleanup stuff. I wish I had a bigger bucket on it. I mean, it just lifts. I mean, it just blasts right through. Well, no, I say blast, but it lifts that stuff. What is happening? A couple final thoughts on the, maybe not final, but last thoughts, final thoughts, whatever you want to call them, on the CAT299XHP. Again, like, as the third machine that I have tested, one being the Kubota, two being the Takeuchi, three being the CAT, currently on the way right now to pick up the Bobcat for that. Talking about the CAT, like, in all the machines, like, they have their very impressive likes and very, maybe not very, but some pretty big dislikes. So I'll start with the dislikes first. I cannot stand the cab on the CAT. Like, I can't stand it. It's too small. It doesn't have a cell phone holder. The cup holder is about good enough for a baby bottle. It's not very big, it's super tiny, and like, it's just too small. And I was only in it, like, I maybe ran it for 20 minutes, a half an hour. And I also ran that same machine back in 2007, 2008. It was a brand new one at the time, but I ran that machine for probably 1,000 hours. And it just brings back haunting memories of feeling claustrophobic and tight in there. And it's not too bad for the first hour. Like, it's very tolerable within the first hour. However, after that, and even in that half an hour that I ran it the other day, like, I already found myself wanting more room. Now, I am 6'5", 240, 250 pounds, so I'm a big guy. If you're probably under, 5'10", it's probably going to be all right for you. But as a big guy, I do not want to sit in that thing very much at all. I just don't like the size of the cab. If CAT would make a bigger cab on those things, I'd be very, very interested in that machine. But long term, I just don't want to sit in that machine. The benefit of the cab is I think they have the best cooling and heating system in it. The vents are all in a really good location, and it gets really cold. In my Kubota, I gotta have the AC like blaring until it really cools down for a while. So I think CAT does a great job on their heating and cooling system on the cab. And then also, it's the quietest on the inside. It's so quiet compared to the others on the inside. So if you're running a mulcher where you're wide open a lot, I think that's that is a very, very big selling point, and that's why a lot of guys run mulchers on that 299XHP, because it's got the power, it's quiet, and then also, and this is that pro and con, like the cab for me is, it's kind of a deal breaker on that machine. But the good thing about that cab or that machine as a whole is it feels like a very small machine when you're running it. It feels small, where the Takeuchi feels really, really big. Feels like you're almost driving a combination between a front end loader and a dozer in the Takeuchi. When you're in the CAT, it feels like you're driving a 259D or a little old ASV RC60 or something. The CAT feels much smaller than the Kubota as well, and I think that's partly, there's a couple reasons why. It feels like a narrower machine. I think it's narrower in the cab, it's got to be, so they can narrow in the boom, the loader arms. The radiator is mounted on the top, so you get better access to the engine and easier access to the engine. However, you lose visibility. So another thing that I'm just not a fan of on that machine is just the poor visibility on it. It's just, you can't see out back. You have to have a backup camera. I also don't prefer having the LCD screen up on top. And like, I'm not bad mouthing CAT. I'll get to the good points. It's just things that I don't like about it. And I think if they really did a good redesign in their cab, if you're from CAT, you're watching this, like, please, like, you need to make a bigger cab for bigger guys and bigger operators. And I've heard this across the board from guys who are buying Takeuchis and Kubotas. Part of a huge reason why they went and bought those machines, why I got a Kubota, is because I could fit in it. So I don't like how the screen is up top, because if your general eye or gaze or view is down, so in order to look at the backup camera, because it's worthless to turn your head around to look out back, because you can't see anything. You can see a little tiny piece out of the window. So to look down, or where you're looking down doing your work, you have to take your eyes off of that and look up to go backwards. Now, arguably, it's easier than turning your head all the way around, true, but if you're going to all the work and creating the whole system, make it so you can just shift your eyes over and down to the right, so you're not doing this motion for me, looking up at that screen. It really, really takes away from me focusing on the dirt. So that's kind of my thoughts on the cab of the Caterpillar. Now, it did have a smaller bucket on it. Probably had a 3/4 to a half yard bucket on it. And we moved the dirt. It moved the dirt in about 4 minutes, 30 seconds, 5 minutes top. It moved it fast. The hydraulic controls, the joysticks on the CAT are, bar none, the best. The most responsive, almost too responsive, but I think it's just something to get used to. The controls and the sensitivity on those joysticks is absolutely amazing. They almost feel too sensitive to me, because the Kubota is very, very forgiving in its controls, and I'm very used to it. So it's not to say that you couldn't get used to the CATs and do well and fine with those as they are, but very responsive, very powerful. The CAT just, it really, really felt like the most powerful machine out of the three. So out of the Kubota, the Takeuchi, and the CAT itself. Now, remember, the CAT had a smaller bucket than both the Takeuchi and the Kubota. The CAT, we did move sand with that machine. So smaller bucket, it's definitely going to feel more powerful. Smaller bucket. What impressed me is that even with the smaller bucket, it moved the material faster than the Kubota or the Takeuchi. Now the Takeuchi also, we only had like a thick clay to work with. I really think the Takeuchi would have done better, a lot better in sand. We probably could have gotten down to maybe 4 minutes and 20 seconds on it. This is all speculation. I'm really just giving you guys my advice, trying to keep these tests as equal and fair as possible, but just want to give you guys my thoughts on how they feel and that point of view. So the CAT is just a powerhouse. It just is an absolute animal. Very impressed with that. The CAT build and overall size of the machine feels very similar, looks very similar to that of the Kubota, not nearly as big as the Takeuchi, which leads me to believe is the Takeuchi almost overbuilt? Like, is it almost too big? And I've kind of mentioned that before, but maybe not. You know, I just see the Takeuchi, the loader arms and pins, bushings, you know, getting 3, 4, maybe even 5,000 hours out of the pins, bushings, loader arms, and all that kind of stuff before you have to replace any of it. And that's pretty impressive. So, average build in this horsepower size range that the CAT has given or appears to have. That machine had, I can't remember, I think it had about 300 hours on that machine, on the Caterpillar. The suspension on the CAT. This is another interesting topic that I don't know if I could get used to it. I mean, my torso is just all over the place. So again, maybe it's I'm sure there's something I could learn to do to operate that thing more smoothly and more efficiently to limit that. But that suspension, in my opinion, is a big culprit or a big factor in adding to that back and forth jerky motion that just, I could feel it, and my back was like, screw this stuff, man. Like, so if you have lower back problems already, don't get the CAT. Like, you just don't want it. I think that's why I'm not like, I see a lot of smaller guys, independent owner operators who get CATs. Like, they're just smaller people, and they love them, and I can totally see why, because they don't have a problem with the size of the cab. They're a smaller torso, so you don't have the leverage that's put onto your lower back as just being a taller person. So you know, I can see the smaller guys liking the CATs better, and I think it is. I think it's an animal. It's got the same engine. Kubota makes that engine spec'd out to their specs. It's the same engine that's in the Takeuchi. So overall engine performance, beyond the horsepower ratings and capabilities, you know, I don't know that it's between the CAT, the Takeuchi, and the Kubota. I really don't know that, unless you're running a mulcher or a high flow attachment, you're going to really notice that. So if you're looking for a dirt work machine only, you might run a mulcher once in a while on it. You might put a high flow attachment on it once in a while. I think the high horsepower units, the CAT and the Takeuchi, might not be worth the extra cost for that. So what else? We covered the tracks, we covered the cab, covered the engine. Oh, another thing I really do like about the CAT setup, but again, it's a pro-con, big pro-con, is there is no radiator in the way to change your fluids. Your fuel cap's in there, which is, I'm not sure I'm a big fan of having the fuel cap inside the engine compartment. Like, it's just one more thing you have to open to fill it up. So it's a little easier. I mean, it's a lot easier to do a service on it because you don't have to remove the radiator. But where CAT put the radiator up on top, you lose all that visibility. So it's a trade-off. It's just a trade-off, you know, and what do you want to go with? What works better for your situation? So that's really my final thoughts on CAT. You know, it's a great machine. I don't think you can go wrong with that machine, unless things like visibility and cab space are very, very important to you, and they are to me. And I think that it's kind of a bummer because the power and the response of it is awesome, and it's very tempting to get that machine, but I can't fit in it, and I can't see out of it, so as well. And then the door, put an overhead door in it. Like, put a door that goes up, because I want to be able to get out of the machine with the boom up. Many times in Florida, when I was working with that machine, I couldn't get out of the machine. I had to call someone to come over and, you know, help load, do whatever, you know. So as an owner-operator, and if you're doing your own manual labor or helping your laborer do the work, and, you know, you're going to have to get in and out of that machine, that you can't with the door. It just does not work. So my CAT sales rep joked with me one time. He goes, "You'll love the CAT skid steers if we can just get you in the door." So, still not, I can get in the door, but man, I don't like it. So, my final thoughts on CAT. Thank you for Michigan CAT, basically for being a part of McAllister CAT. McAllister CAT let me come by and run that machine. You guys rock. McAllister's a great company to rent from. And that's about it. So we're about to go pick up the Bobcat. Should be here in, I think, 10-15 minutes or so. And check out that video to post soon. Thanks for watching. See ya.